So I guess I should start from the beginning, even though it's painful to relive all of it. I was married to Emily for 3 years, and honestly, I thought we were solid. We had our ups and downs like everyone does, but I believed she was faithful, loyal, and genuinely cared about us. We had a pretty normal life: work, friends, the occasional vacation. I thought she was the one. I mean, she'd always be the first to say how much she loved me, how she couldn't imagine life without me, and I believed her. Or at least I wanted to. Things started feeling off about 3 months ago. Emily became distant, more irritable, snapping at small things, avoiding sex altogether. I figured she was stressed with her job or maybe just tired, so I didn't push too hard. But then I noticed her phone, which she usually kept close, started disappearing from the kitchen counter or slipping into her purse when I entered the room. I didn't think much of it at first. People hide things sometimes, especially if they're feeling overwhelmed. But then I found her deleting texts, clearing her browsing history, and acting weird when I was around. One night I got home after work, and I caught her sneaking out of the bathroom with her phone. She looked nervous, and I caught a glimpse of a message that made my stomach drop. "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby." That was the first clear sign I had that something was really wrong. I didn't say anything then, just kept quiet, but the seed of doubt was planted deep. I started watching her more closely, noticing how she'd always be quick to hang up calls, lie about where she was going, or suddenly take long business trips that she insisted were necessary for her job. The most shocking thing happened a couple of weeks ago. I was out of town for a business trip, and Emily was supposed to stay home working late. But then I got a strange feeling and decided to check her phone from the hotel. I saw messages from someone named Mike, which I didn't recognize at first. But then I saw more flirty texts, even some explicit ones, where she was clearly saying she missed him and wanted to see him. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my partner, was cheating on me with our neighbor Mike, who also happens to be my best friend. Getting that evidence was like a gut punch. I felt numb, cold, like the world was crashing down on me. I never thought Emily would do something so cruel, so deceptive. I mean, we had plans for the wedding, for a future. And here she was, lying right to my face, sneaking around with the guy I trusted most. It's like she had this whole double life that I never even suspected. I felt betrayed, angry, and crushed all at once. I couldn't sleep that night, just lying there in the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I'd just discovered. The worst part, I still loved her, or at least I thought I did, but now I wasn't sure if I ever knew her at all. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and the weight of everything I'd uncovered was pressing down on me harder than ever. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't ready. I needed a plan, something cold, calculated, and sure. I couldn't just burst in and accuse her without evidence or a clear head. I wanted to catch her in the act, see her lie, or better yet, hear her admit it herself. I stayed quiet that day, trying to keep my composure, but inside I was burning. I kept replaying the texts I found, the sneaky way she acted around me lately, and the look in her eyes when she thought I wasn't paying attention. It all clicked into place. The secretive behavior, the late nights, the disappearing act with her phone. She had been lying to me from the start, and I'd been blind to it. That realization hurt worse than anything. That evening, I decided I'd catch her in the act. I set a trap. I made sure I stayed home that night, pretending to be busy with some work on my laptop. I kept my phone close, ready to record or snap pictures if needed. I even put a little bug in her phone, a recording app I secretly downloaded earlier. I was determined to get irrefutable proof. I knew I couldn't trust her word anymore, not after all this. Around 9 p.m., she finally slipped out of the house without her phone, which was suspicious. I followed her from a distance, trying to stay hidden. She drove to the neighbor's house, Mike's place. I watched her walk inside, her heels clicking on the pavement, her purse hanging loosely at her side. I waited in my car, heart pounding, until I saw her emerge an hour later, her face flushed, looking over her shoulder. She got into her car and drove off quickly, heading back home. That's when I knew for sure. She'd been lying all along, sneaking around behind my back, and I had the evidence to prove it. I didn't even bother going inside that night. Instead, I sat in my car, staring at her house, feeling like I'd just lost everything I ever cared about. My mind was racing. I knew this wasn't just a fling or some stupid mistake. This was betrayal on a level I'd never imagined possible. The woman I loved had been cheating on me with my best friend, and I had all the proof right here. I couldn't believe I was in this position. How did it get so bad? How did I miss all the signs? And now I had to decide what to do next. I knew confronting her would be the next step, but I also knew that no matter what she said, nothing could undo this damage. I was shattered, and honestly, I was furious. Furious at her for lying, furious at Mike for betraying not just our friendship but my trust, and furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. I never thought I'd be the guy to get cheated on, especially not by the woman I planned to spend my life with. It felt like my entire world was crumbling, and I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to put the pieces back together. The confrontation had to happen. I couldn't just keep everything bottled up inside, not anymore. I didn't want to scream and yell like some maniac, but I knew I needed to get her to admit what she'd done, to face her lies head on. The moment I walked through that door, I felt every ounce of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak boiling over. I told myself I'd be calm, but inside I was a hurricane ready to explode. She was sitting in the living room, all her makeup half finished, looking like she'd been crying but also like she was trying to hide something. Her eyes widened when I stepped in. I didn't say a word at first. I just looked at her, letting her squirm under my gaze. Then I pulled out my phone, showing her the recordings I had made, the times she'd slipped out, the texts, everything. Her face drained of color and her eyes darted around nervously. "I know about Mike," I said coldly. "I know you've been sleeping with him. For how long, Emily? How long have you lied to me?" My voice was steady, but inside I was trembling with rage. Her lips parted, trying to come up with some excuse, some bullshit story. She started with, "It's not what you think," and then proceeded to lie her ass off, saying it was just a mistake. Just some stupid fling that meant nothing, that she still loved me, and that she never wanted to hurt me. She called him just a friend, that they only kissed a few times, that it was never about love, only about sex. It was all so typical, so rehearsed, but I didn't buy it, not for a second. The evidence was too clear and her tone was too fake. I told her I knew she'd been lying about everything, about her trips, about working late, about us. I asked her why she'd do this, why she'd betray me with my best friend. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk like she thought she was clever. "Oh, please," she sneered, "you're overreacting. Mike and I, we just had some fun. You're not perfect either, so don't act all innocent. Maybe I needed something else, maybe you weren't enough for me anymore." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I felt the anger rising, but I kept my voice calm, cold. "Did you ever love me?" I asked. She hesitated, then said, "Of course I did, but people change. Things happen. I didn't mean for it to get this far." "Yeah, right." I could see the desperation in her eyes, the way she tried to spin it so she'd come out looking like the victim. That's when I realized she had been lying her whole life, playing a game I never saw coming. The hardest part wasn't just hearing her lie, it was seeing her try to manipulate the situation, act like I was the one in the wrong for catching her. I felt sick. I felt betrayed. And I knew I had to walk away from this, no matter how much it hurt. I told her she could keep her lies, keep her love for Mike, because I was done. Done with the lies, the cheating, the betrayal. I told her I file for divorce, that I wanted nothing to do with her anymore, that she was dead to me. She threw a fit, calling me crazy, saying I was overreacting, that I was ruining everything for no reason. But I didn't care. All I cared about was getting out of there, clearing my head, and figuring out how to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. I left her standing there, yelling after me, but I didn't turn back. I just walked out, knowing that this was the end of my marriage, the end of my trust, and the beginning of a new, much harder chapter I wasn't ready for. The pain was overwhelming, but deep down, I knew I had to face it, even if it meant starting from nothing. After I walked out that night, I didn't look back. I drove around for hours, just circling the city, trying to clear my head, trying not to scream or break down. The silence in my car was deafening. Every song on the radio seemed to echo my heartbreak. The betrayal, the lies, the fact that the woman I loved had been cheating on me with my best friend. That thought kept replaying in my mind like some cruel joke. How could she do this? How could someone I trusted so completely turn out to be the biggest liar of all? I knew I needed to do something, but I didn't want to make a rash decision. I spent those hours thinking about revenge, about justice, about how to make her feel what I was feeling now, devastated, humiliated, furious. I wasn't about to let her walk away without consequences. I decided I'd end it, not just with a divorce, but with a plan so she'd remember this betrayal forever. I wanted her to taste the pain she'd caused me, to see me finally stand tall even after she tried to destroy me. The next day, I started putting my plan into motion. I reached out to a private investigator I knew from work, someone I could trust to do this discreetly. I hired him to follow Emily for a few days, gather evidence of her new relationship with Mike. I wanted pictures, proof that she was still seeing him. I needed everything documented. I also contacted a divorce lawyer just to get ahead on the paperwork and make sure I was ready to file as soon as I had enough proof. Meanwhile, I kept my distance. I wanted her to think everything was normal, like I was just going to forget about it, but I was. Every moment I wasn't with her, I was plotting, waiting for the right time to strike back. I stayed strong, but inside I was boiling. Every time I saw her lies staring right back at me. Her sneaky smiles, the way she'd try to act innocent even after everything. That was all fake now. I knew her game, and I was tired of being the fool. One day, I got the evidence I needed. The investigator had photos of Emily and Mike sneaking around at night, holding hands, kissing behind the neighbor's garage. I saw her in those pictures, looking like a lovesick fool, completely ignoring the fact that I was the one she'd betrayed. It was like a punch to the gut, seeing her so close to him, so comfortable, so in love, while I was out here hurting and alone. That image burned into my mind, and I knew I had to finish what I started. I went straight to my lawyer, handed over the evidence, and filed for divorce. I wanted her out of my life for good. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions, but I also knew I needed to be careful about how I handled things with her. I didn't want to make her feel like she still had control over me, so I kept my distance, played it cool, and let the legal process take its course. I didn't want her to see how much she'd hurt me, but I also didn't want to give her any reason to think she could manipulate me anymore. That hurt too much to let happen. In the aftermath of all this, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. The anger was still there, simmering just under the surface, but I also felt the weight of betrayal lifting. I'd taken back control, even if it hurt like hell. I realized that I'd spent so much time trusting her, believing she was honest and loyal, and she'd smash that trust into pieces. I learned that sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who can hurt you the deepest. And as much as I wish things had turned out differently, I knew I had to move forward, no matter how broken I still felt inside. The divorce process took a few months, but it felt like an eternity. Every day was a reminder of what I'd lost: her lies, the betrayal, the fact that my best friend had stabbed me in the back. I had to keep going, though. I couldn't let this destroy me completely, even if some days I felt like I was barely holding on. I threw myself into work, tried to rebuild a little piece of myself that hadn't been shattered by her deceit. During those months, I kept everything to myself. I didn't want to tell anyone how badly I was hurting, not because I was ashamed, but because I didn't want sympathy. I just wanted to get through it. I didn't trust anyone anymore, especially not her, and certainly not Mike. The images of her with him haunted me, especially when I was alone at night. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying all the signs I missed, all the moments I should have seen through her lies. One day, I finally sat down and thought about what I'd truly learned from all of this. It hit me that I'd spent years putting her first, trusting her blindly, ignoring my own gut feelings. I realized I'd been living in denial, convincing myself everything was fine because I didn't want to face the truth. That's what hurts the most: how much I'd ignored the red flags, how much I'd let her manipulate me into believing she was perfect, loyal, and loving. I'd been a fool to think she was different. But I also saw something else, a small flicker of strength inside. I wasn't going to let her or Mike ruin me completely. I might have been broken, but I was still standing. I was choosing to move on, to rebuild from the ashes. I started going to therapy, talking to friends, and slowly I was trying to piece myself back together. It wasn't easy, and I knew I'd carry the scars forever, but I was determined not to be defined by her betrayal. The day I finally signed the final papers, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with sadness. It was like closing a chapter I never wanted to open. I knew I'd never forget what she did, but I also knew I had the power to choose how I moved forward. I'd learned to trust my instincts again, to listen to that voice inside warning me. I realized that true happiness wouldn't come from her or Mike, but from within, from rebuilding my life one step at a time. Looking back, I wish I could have seen the signs earlier, but I also know now that some betrayals can't be prevented. You only find out after the fact, and all you can do is pick yourself up, learn, and move on. I want anyone reading this to know, if you're going through something similar, don't lose hope. Trust is fragile, and sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that teach us how to be stronger. I may have lost her, I may have lost my best friend, but I gained a new understanding of myself. That's worth more than any betrayal. Now that it's all over, I've had time to really reflect on everything. I don't exactly feel healed, but I do feel different. Somehow, going through all this, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the anger, has made me realize a lot about myself. I learned that trust isn't something to take for granted, and that people, even those closest to you, can hide things you'd never suspect. It's a harsh lesson, but one I needed to learn. I think the biggest thing I've taken from this is that I'm stronger than I thought. I thought I was just some guy who loved his wife, who believed in the fairy tale. Turns out, I'm more resilient than I gave myself credit for. I know now that I can get through heartbreak, that I can survive betrayal, and that I can come out the other side still standing. Even better, I now understand that I deserve honesty, loyalty, and respect, and I won't settle for anything less. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, I just want to say, it hurts. It will hurt for a long time, but you're not alone and you're stronger than you think. Trust your gut, listen to your instincts, and don't be afraid to walk away if something feels wrong. The pain will fade eventually, and what's left will be a clearer, wiser version of yourself. I've started rebuilding my life slowly but surely. I've focused on my career, reconnected with some friends I'd neglected, and even started dating again, cautiously but with hope. It's not about rushing into something new to forget the old. It's about learning to love yourself again first. That's what I needed most to find my own footing, to remind myself that I am enough, even after someone else tried to prove I was. Looking back, I know I'll never forget what happened, and I'll carry the scars of betrayal forever. But I also know that I'm not defined by her lies or her betrayal. I am still here. I am still fighting. And I am finally ready to move forward wiser and more cautious, but also more hopeful. Life goes on, and I refuse to let her or anyone else steal my happiness again.